Namna nilivyokufahamisha awali kwamba tunaye mgeni ambaye ana utashi mkubwa sana kwa masuala ya ukulima bila wasiwasi. Tunaye naibu wa rais Rigathi Gachagua. Karibu sana katika kipindi chetu Kenya's Goal. Kwa mara ya kwanza kabisa kinakwenda hewani katika taifa la Kenya na vile vile katika Afrika Mashariki. Ninaye mwenzangu Mgena.
Thank you so very much for making time, Your Excellency. We're very honored to have you. Now, if we can jump right into the questions. The statistics currently show that the average age of a Kenyan farmer is about 61 years, yet 70% of the population of Kenya consists of the youth. As a government, what are we doing to make sure that we entice young people to embrace agriculture?
Thank you very much. First and foremost, let me thank you for being kind enough to invite me for this inaugural show of Kenya's Goal. It's a very important show. Agriculture is a very important aspect of our development. It's an important aspect of our life. You are definitely aware that agriculture contributes 20-23% of our GDP and almost 27% when you include the interlinkages with the trade. And 40% of the people who are employed in Kenya in the agricultural sector. And as you have rightly said, 70% of the rural population is involved in agriculture. So this show is very important because we have a lot to discuss with the people of Kenya. And you have done well to ask me to talk to you because I'm very passionate about agriculture. And you are aware that among the duties that have been given by the President in the Executive Order number 1 of 2023 is to steer reforms in the agricultural sector with a view of making sure that agriculture is beneficial to the people and agriculture has an incentive. And that brings us the question. Many of our young people, who are the largest part of our population, are not involved in agriculture. One is a tradition that many years back, there was plenty of employment everywhere in the country, and the young people were more keen on white-collar jobs to be given formal employment. I want to tell you, when I was a student at the University of Nairobi in 1985 to 1988, jobs were automatic when you were graduate. That is no longer the case. And that is why our young people never took up agriculture, because they had other alternatives. But the reality of the situation is that now the young people have to conform to the reality. And the reality is that agriculture is the main means of production in this country. And ultimately, agriculture will have to absorb the majority of our population. And therefore, the young people have no choice but to get involved in agriculture. And I want to say that most of our young people have been discouraged from getting involved in agriculture because it has not been very rewarding. And you know, young people are educated, they are knowledgeable, and they don't just farm for the sake of it. They would like to farm when it's profitable. And we have had a lot of challenges in terms of lack of markets, in terms of lack of proper extension services, and as such, agriculture has not been very productive. In fact, the truth of the matter is that most people in the agricultural sector who are farmers have not been doing it as a way of choice, but because there's nothing else they can do. Most of them are peasants. They are the rural population. They own some land, and the only way for them to fend for themselves and their children is to do some better farming. So the government has a very deliberate policy to involve our young people in agriculture. You are aware of the new intervention of smart agriculture. You are aware of the county aggregation centers, where we want to involve our young people to do online marketing of agricultural produce in this country. And we have a lot of interventions in the horticultural sector that has a lot to do with the greenhouse farming, which is quite attractive to the young people because you don't require a lot of land, and there is a bit of technological aspect in greenhouse farming. So these are some of the interventions that we are making to make the young people to be attracted to farming. But even as we make those incentives, our young people, I must tell them very candidly, as a truthful man, that they don't have a choice because the opportunities are limited because of the way the economy is that Kenya is an agricultural economy, and the bulk of the various activities one can do for a living are in agriculture. So naturally, it behoves our young people to get interested in farming, and farming it right by doing the right thing, by doing accounts, by introducing some education in farming so that they don't just farm because they have nothing else to do. So we have many interventions in terms of financial inclusion. The Hustler Fund is a very innovative way of inviting our young people to be involved in agriculture. The sums may have looked small from the beginning, but it was on pilot. Right now, the phase 2 of the Hustler Fund, we are asking people to form themselves in small groups, and they can borrow from 50,000 shillings up to 1 million shillings, which is a lot of money for agricultural activities. And if young people can form themselves into a small project of 10 people to do some poultry rearing, they can do some pig rearing, they can do some dairy, they can do some greenhouse farming. The government has sufficient money to make available to our young people to get involved in agriculture.
Naibu Rais, hapo umezungumza sana kuhusiana na masuala ya teknolojia. Iweje sasa kwa hawa vijana kupata nafasi ya kufikia malengo ya kupata teknolojia kutoka kwa serikali?
Unajua, katika plan yetu ya Kenya Kwanza, manifesto yetu, tulikuwa na 5 pillars, and one of the 5 pillars ilikuwa ni ile inaitwa digital superhighway and a creative economy. Hiyo inaangazia ya kwamba tunataka kuweka fiber connectivity 100,000 kilometers across the country. Na kama umefuatilia, waziri wetu wa ICT Bwana Eliud Owalo amekuwa akienda kwa masoko kila pahali katika Jamhuri la Kenya na kupeana free wifi ambaye vijana wetu wanaweza kutumia so that they can be connected to the world. They can be able to find out what is happening in the world. They can be able to know what prices are there in the supermarket, what produce does a certain supermarket require, and then that can inform their thinking on what is the most marketable produce that they can concentrate on.
All right. Your Excellency, speaking on Hustler Fund, like you had just mentioned, where young people can take a loan to about 50 to 100,000. Right now, one of the major concerns that the young people talk to us about on why they're not participating in agriculture is it's expensive, from owning land to the input cost of production. From where you sit, is there any conversation that you're having with financial institutions, more financial institutions, to make it possible for young people to be able to get loans without necessarily having to give back a collateral at this point, so that they are able to
absolutely
fully invest in agriculture?
It is true that most young people who want to do farming have a lot of challenges, one of them being availability of land. One, because of our tradition. Our parents and people the age of my parents, people between 60, who are the ones who are doing farming, up to 100, are very reluctant to surrender their land to their children to do farming. But with education, I can see there is a change. And we are encouraging parents to be very kind to their children and to also appreciate that formal employment may not be forthcoming, and agree to give out some land, not necessarily giving them the title deed. They don't have to give them the title deed because of the traditional way of looking at things. Many people think that if they give some land to the young people, they are likely to sell the land and all that. But a parent with 4 acres of land can send about 2 acres for the children. If they are 3 or 4, half an acre each, a quarter each, and they can be able to do small projects. I want to say that we are working with the Agricultural Finance Corporation. As a government, we have created a mechanism to uptake the capital injection to the Agricultural Finance Corporation for the National Treasury to allocate more funds to the Agricultural Finance Corporation for on-lending to people who are involved in agriculture. Again, there are discussions with the Cooperative Bank of Kenya, the Family Bank of Kenya, the Equity Bank, and other financial institutions. on the possibility of them having a special package, designed for our young people.
Right.
And I want to invite our young people who are interested in farming to visit their local branches of the Co Bank, of the Equity Bank, of the Family Bank, of the various microfinances, and again to the Agricultural Finance Corporation. This will enable them interrogate the various packages that are on offer by the various institutions that are working with the government. Again, we are also talking to our development partners, the World Bank, the African Development Bank. There is a lot of discussion with the various foreign governments that are friendly to Kenya and where we enjoy very good relations in matters of development and bilateral relations. So I want to say that it is up to our young people to take up the space. Nobody can come to their house to ask them to go and get money in our financial institutions. They just have to be proactive. They just have now to use technology, go to the internet, be able to go to the websites of the various financial institutions and see the various financial packages that are available for those who are interested in agriculture.
All right. Since you have touched a lot on land, is the project by the government on land commercialization initiative still ongoing?
Yes. What is happening as a country to start with, when you see the affordable housing project that the government is doing, is really first and foremost to create employment for our young people, create affordable and dignified housing for the Kenyan people, but most importantly, stop the subdivision of land into small uneconomical units that cannot be used for farming. I would like to give the example of Kiambu. Kiambu had large-scale farms of coffee and tea for a long time. If you go to Kiambu now, you go to the constituency of Kiamba, Kikuyu, Kabete, Limuru, there is very little farming going on. Most of the farms, because of the proximity to Nairobi city, have been turned, they have changed the user and they have turned them into residential areas and commercial areas. One of the ways of discouraging subdivision of land and preserving it for agriculture, for the purposes of food security, is to do affordable housing, where people can live in the urban centers and go and farm in the rural areas. So, and again, we have the project of availing machinery for hire, the government working with the county governments, where people can hire tractors from the county governments in conjunction with the national government, so that they can be able to go and do what they need to do in the farms and make farming more mechanized and less cost effective. They can lower down the cost of production and make it more accurate, so that you are able even to quantify what you are putting in as opposed to what you are expecting to get in terms of output.
All right, then we are taking a short break. Of course, amazing points from Your Excellency, the Deputy President of the Republic of Kenya, Rigathi Gachagua, on what they're doing to make agriculture enticing to the young people. We will be back with absolutely so much more in the conversation. In the meantime, please keep talking to us across all our social media platforms. Our SMS line is 22422, and on email, we are at kenyasgold@royalmedia.co.ke, and our hashtag is #KenyasGold. See you after this short break.